Washington State Cougars head football coach Mike Leach has been hired by the Mississippi State Bulldogs to become their head football coach. Leach travels south to the SEC to resurrect what has been a middle-class program of college football. Mike Leach is a true rebel. Everybody likes to talk about being a rebel, but Mike is one. He does things his own way. If you watch any press conference, any interview, you think it's going through his head at all? I wonder what they expect me to say. Wonder what I'm supposed to say. Wonder what would get me in trouble. Leach is saying whatever pops into his head, and therefore, to me, he's two things that I love. He's authentic, and he's a rebel. I also think he's a massive innovator. He's truly at the top of the tree of all this offensive innovation. He is the one from which guys like Lincoln Riley bloom. He is the main branch. I've always wondered why Mike Leach doesn't get hired by some big-time program, or better yet, even considered in the NFL. Mike Leach is honestly like a lot of geniuses. Odd. Can't you deal with odd? Can't you deal with geniuses? Remember a couple months ago here on the Will Cain Show, we talked about middle-class programs, teams that are stuck in the middle of college football. Those seem to be the only ones willing to take on the risk of Mike Leach. And I guess the risk is one of PR, one of oddity. We talked about Arkansas. We talked about Washington State, NC State. We talked about programs who should roll the dice to get to the top. And Mississippi State was one of those. And I think going from the Pac-12 to the SEC is a step up for Leach. But I wonder why it's always these programs, the ones who almost need to take the risk, that are willing to hire Mike Leach. Texas Tech, Washington State, Mississippi State. Why not a program like Texas or Oklahoma should Lincoln Riley leave? Or any other? Embrace the pirate. Why do rebels have to be relegated to the outskirts? Maybe the answer is that's really the only place that they thrive, by their own making. Eric in Idaho's on the Will Cain Show. What's up, Eric?
How you doing?
I'm good.
All right. Yeah, I'd like to point out a couple reasons why I don't believe he'll be successful at all in this jump from Pullman to Mississippi here. The first is, it's been talked about before. You mentioned he's authentic. I see him more as a bully, and he belittles and humiliates his players very publicly. And I'm curious how that'll fly when his team gets his butts whooped, and the first thing he does is go into the press conference and call all of his players soft and say they played very soft. Never points the finger at himself, always at the players or somebody else. And my second point is the air raid gets QBs killed physically. You pass 50, 60 times, and with the defensive lines being far superior in the SEC to the Pac-12, those quarterbacks are going to take a beating in his system. Mark my words on that.
Which quarterbacks have been killed so far?
Well, let's go back to Halliday. He used to take more brutal shots in one game than I've seen quarterbacks take all year. It's kind of like the run and shoot. This air raid system, you are going to be throwing the ball and getting blasted quite a bit. And
yet it's the foundation, isn't it, Eric, of all the quarterbacks we see in the NFL, those populating like Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray, Patrick Mahomes. It's the one in which they all grew up in.
Sure. I'm just telling you right now, the quarterbacks in that system with those NFL D linemen they're going to be facing week in, week out are going to take some serious shots playing QB for him. And they,
I guess,
we won't have their back if they throw in picks. It's their fault, not his.
I guess
that's
I see your point
rolls.
that some quarterbacks get hit and others become one of the greatest young quarterbacks in the game. Patrick Mahomes isn't a direct Mike Leach disciple, but you don't have to go far. And he tells it like it is. Maybe sometimes players are soft. Maybe sometimes they did make a mistake. Maybe he just tells it the way it is. I like Mike Leach. I like him at Mississippi State.
We're so glad you're watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, make sure you subscribe to ESPN Plus. We'll see you there.